call. I want to tell you that anytime throughout the call, as always, if you want to raise your hand, just push number 1. Mike, our moderator, will see that. I do not see the screen. However, Mike will inform me of a question. So if you have a question anytime throughout the call, press 1. At the end of the call, we'll have a comment section. You can ask questions or give comments. Today's call refers to the doctor is in. And what I mean by that, I want you to understand something. I strongly love the medical profession in the way that they look at things, scheduling, customer intake process, their procedures to handle clients. So we're going to go into that process, that customer intake process, and then look at it on the automotive slant. So first of all, one thing that I really appreciate about doctors, dentists, those types of people, they will call the day before the appointment, right? And what they'll say is, hey, Rob, just wanted to remind you, you've got an appointment with the doctor tomorrow at 10:45. If you have to change that appointment, here's the number at the office to call. Now, I'll tell you, that is where it starts, because one thing about technician time, one thing about doctor time, it's exactly the same structure, right? If you look at why they do that, because the doctor's time is valuable. They don't want no-shows. They don't want people to forget the appointment, and they know that happens. So they start off by reminding the client of their obligation and the time of that obligation for the appointment. So they schedule it right. They stagger the appointments. Do you think a doctor would have the entire population of the day show up at 8 o'clock? If you really believe that, then understand that would be the most unproductive way to control the doctor's time. If everybody showed up at the same time, how would they do it? Well, let's look at that now from the next step. They walk into the office, you're there for your appointment, you just go right in and talk to the doc, right? No. You talk to an intake nurse where she grabs your history, your medical history. And if it's not electronic, she uses a laptop now, and she'll go in the office, and she'll ask why you're here. What are you here for today? Well, I got this sore throat or whatever, and she will be busy checking blood pressure, temperature, weight, looking at your medical history, making notes in the history, preparing the visit for the doctor. Then the doctor walks in. He's already got the reason for the visit. He's already got the fundamentals, right? They did their own little multi-point inspection on the customer intake process. They understood the concerns of the client, of the patient in this manner. Now, they also have a route sheet, right? They know what patient is what in what room and in what order those patients are going to be seen. Sometimes first in, first out isn't primarily the fastest way to process the customers. Maybe patient number 1 has to have an electrocardiogram. Well, that won't require the doctor's time. They'll send the person in that does the electrocardiogram. Further testing and preparation, and the doc will be in a different room evaluating a different patient to best utilize the time. Then they evaluate the needs of the client. Do you think the doctor holds anything back from the patient? That they would be saying things like, well, doggone it, I see that it looks like there's a mass here, there's a tumor on this side. There may be the blood pressure spiking, the heart rate is way high, the blood pressure is elevated. I haven't had lunch yet. I've got 4 more patients before the end of the day. I'm not even going to go into it. I'll have them come back for another evaluation later. No, every patient, every time, they got to spike that need. Inform and educate the client, the patient, of what that need is and what the options are. Now, the reason I go into the medical profession so well, they do it right. Would you go into a doctor that didn't review your medical history? I don't think so. Would the nurse be allowed on the customer intake process to say, I didn't have time to check their weight. I didn't have time to check their blood pressure. Didn't have time to do a customer intake process. That wouldn't fly for 15 minutes. You want a doctor to look at your history. You want a doctor to schedule you right. Do you want to sit in a doctor's office for 2 hours? I've probably had that experience once or twice. That's not the doctor I want to go to. Do you want a doctor that doesn't understand the concerns of what the purpose is for your visit? You want them to not evaluate every need so you can get out of there quick? You want them not to provide you a consultation of what your needs are and what their recommendations for treatment are. You see how silly that sounds in a medical profession. And in my view, that should sound absolutely the same for ours. Do you believe that you would be better off not to look at histories, not to look at the history of the vehicle, not to schedule it right? Do you believe that we are better off to not have appointments made on a staggered basis? My goodness, it's absolutely stunning to even consider that we would have no customer intake process that's standardized, right? We wouldn't walk around the vehicle and make notes. You know, right now, everybody's going to electronic multi-point inspections. It's the future of this business. Electronic multi-point inspections will better enable us to handle the processes that we need to take care and maximize the customer experience. You see, if we don't do it right, the customer doesn't enjoy waiting in the customer lounge. They don't enjoy watching TV in there. They want to get in, be properly cared for, and get out. You know where one of the big disconnects are? Where we come in and we go into detail about not necessarily what their car needs are. We go into, hey, you're due for this. It's $60,000. It's $800. Sign here and sit there, with no explanation of feature or benefit. And we think that it's right to have everyone show up at 8 o'clock, process them, allow them extended wait times without concern. We don't even look at the vehicle. We just walk in, sit down, sign here, sit there. This isn't the way to maximize customer care. And then, on top of all of that, we'll wonder why our customer satisfaction is low. We'll wonder why we have no-shows. And yet, I believe our technician time is as critical as the doctor's time. You see, we are the doctor for the car. We are the reason for their visit. They want top quality professional care. When a customer brings their vehicle into a car dealership, if you looked at what they want, it's the doctor experience. It's that understanding their time's important as ours. Their time that they wait. Understanding of what their needs are. So many times I think we misplace the reason for our existence, and we don't understand. Without that customer, we're nothing. And over the 10 years of consulting and the 30 years of automotive management experience, I will tell you that if you're in a management position, if you're in an advisor role, first of all, understand this great truth. You better have a passion for that customer. You better have a concern for that customer. And really, one time after a service visit, I had my tire fall off my vehicle. Had to rotate and an oil change, and the tire came off my car on the way out of the facility. Do you think anybody wants that to happen? We better have our processes in line. We better understand we have the desire to be equal to the medical profession in processes. And if you think it can't be done with automotive, I will flat out tell you you're wrong, and you're going to be struggling with repair order counts. You want to retain your customer? You better have a great understanding there's only one way to care for them. That's with proper processes. That's with follow-up calls, too. How did we do today? John Spanos, I love this one time. He had a thing where he told me he was asking customers, how could I be better? How could I have made your visit better today? Are you bold enough to ask that to your customers and mean it? How can we be better? You see, when you focus on how to be better, yeah, we had some struggles at 8 o'clock. We have the customer lounge full at 8:30, and then at 2:30 we have 1 or 2 in there. You better look at it. Do you think that's the best way to give a maximum experience on that visit for your customer? It's time we all started working together with the understanding that a great team provides great processes, because every result in that doctor's office I just described is process driven. And it's the same with automotive. The reality, give them a phone call reminder, give them a great customer intake process, understand what their needs are, have them scheduled right, have a route sheet that's using promise times, evaluate their needs, understand what those needs are, write them on the RO properly, and give a consultation with the customer. It's nobody's fault, the condition of their vehicle, but if it needs it, it's our obligation to discuss it. The same obligation that doctor has to discuss our needs in their visit. All right, let's open it up for some comments or questions. If you have any, press 1 now.
Hey there.
Hello.
Hi, Shay from Belleville Dodge in Ontario.
How are you, Shay? Good to hear from you today.
Yeah, finally getting in. It's tough to get in sometimes, but here I am. Yeah, great stuff. We're starting off the new year. We're looking at changing a lot of processes, but we always talk about the reference to the dentist, that next appointment, just the way they always call you before it's time to come in, and then when we get you here, we're trying to refine our walk around, not to be, but to be something that everybody does all the time. And one of the toughest things we find is when you call it the process, it's that word nobody wants to hear because it sounds tedious and boring. But at the end of the day, if we can find something that works for us and customize it. And one thing I'm working on today, especially this afternoon with our shop foreman, is to count him in on what can I make him accountable for with each one of those technicians to not only check but ensure things are getting checked every time so that everybody's on board. And then for me, and my part as fixed operations, is to make sure that I'm doing the same from the advisor perspective. So we're trying to refine that whole process. I think that's what we're talking about today, right, is making it a good habit for everybody.
Exactly. Same every car, every time. Cookie cutter. Same thing.
And if people don't buy into it, then of course they're not going to buy into it, and we all fail, or we just don't perform as we can. So it's a tough task to get people to buy into systems, but I think if you involve them in it and let them have a say of what they would think would be the outcome, and a positive outcome and consistent, we might get some success.
Yes, and the same thing is true with the doctor's time and the technician's time. It can't be refrigerated, can't be stored. You use it or it's gone.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the toughest ones for our dealership is our parts counter, and it's getting in there and getting out of there and getting that tech taken care of, you know?
Yes, that's always a source of concern, and I love the technology that's coming on with the iPads and the involvement and the different programs and the ways for parts to communicate, like ShopWatch. ShopWatch is a good program that we love.
Now, have you guys used, just a question, not to interrupt, I just wanted to ask about appointment setting. Has anybody used the company Dealer Mine?
Dealer Mine?
Yeah. They go ahead and basically take over your database and do a wonderful job of setting up appointments and really focus on every element of it.
I would encourage you to look at ShopWatch. I know ShopWatch is probably the favorite one I've ever seen, and the reason I really love it is because they have an electronic route sheet.
Oh, cool.
So they show you available technician hours throughout the day, cuts off appointments. It's just an incredible thing. And, I would encourage you to check ShopWatch out. It's stunning what the features and benefits are, and it's probably my favorite personal one.
Sweet. I'm going to check into that. Definitely check into
Okay, anybody else? John, how about you? You got anything?
Yeah, I hit one a few times there. Just want to add something to the gentleman's the gentleman's question. He talked about one of the big challenges being parts counter as far as technicians, whether it's log jams, there are 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or more techs at the counter waiting, or we getting them in and out. Every time I see a challenge at the parts counter, I look at my watch or my phone and see what time it is. And if that bottleneck is at 7 o'clock, then I immediately go into the schedule, and I love to see the coincidence or the parallel between whenever there's a bottleneck at the parts counter, there's probably a bottleneck in the schedule. And most of the time, it goes back to staggering appointments. If we're piling them on at 8 o'clock, then that's exactly what's going to happen at the parts counter. If we stagger appointments, we also create that half an hour, not just for the walk-around and the advisor, but for the techs, so that they're farther apart in their going from the vehicle to the parts department, to the parts department, to the advisor. So it really always, for me, the walk-around, the time at the parts, it always goes back to the schedule. And if we nail that, the rest, to me, is a lot easier.
Good point. Wow.
Hey, everybody, it's Tony. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To build on what John was adding, additionally, if you count that time, that's unproductive time for every technician. And like you mentioned, Rob, we can't get that back. It's gone now. I know a shop I was in recently, no one, there's eight people in the shop, and no one really started working on any cars until about 8:30. So when you grind that out, that's a lot of time that you're never going to catch up with throughout the day. You just can't get that productivity time down later. And it's anything to keep the technicians working on the cars. They're the only source of revenue really in a service